What's good, fam? In this video, I'm going to show you all how to make colored glazes, or what I've been calling rose-colored glazes. Get it? Like, rose-colored glasses, but glazes. Yeah, that's what I'm showing y'all how to make today. To do that, we will need our silicone mat, of course, our sketchbook to test things on, as well as some oil pastels and Mod Podge, a little cup, I'm using my little silicone cup, and a paintbrush, preferably one that is flat. We're gonna start by just making a tiny little swatch of what regular straight out the jar Mod Podge looks like when you apply it and when it dries. So by the time we actually make our little glaze, this one should be fully dry and we can do a nice side-by-side comparison. Obviously, Mod Podge is white, so y'all probably really can't even see it. You can probably see the glistening of it since it is a wet medium. Yeah, I'm just making a square of it and things are coming out of the brush from when I've used it before, but okay. So there is our plain, regular Joe Schmo Mod Podge swatch. Now, to make our rose-colored glaze, really it does not have to be rose-colored. I'm just going to use pink because of course I'm going to use pink. I love pink. You can use any color of your pastel that you want. We're just going to pour just a little bit because this is just like a testa thing. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, you really do not need much of this stuff because a little goes a long way with Mod Podge. You really only want to use thin layers at a time anyway. And now I'm going to use my pinkety pink oil pastel. Okay, so to scrape it off, I'm going to use just this little popsicle stick. And I'm just going to be scraping some of this oil pastel just right on top of the little dollop of Mod Podge we have in there. I'm gonna put a decent amount in there because Mod Podge is pretty thick and we definitely want the color to really seep into it and be noticeable. That is good. Put this back. Now I'm going to use this popsicle stick. Yeah, I should have told y'all in the supplies to get a popsicle stick or some sort of stirrer. And I'm gonna just kind of stir it around, do my best to break up the clumps of the pastel into the Mod Podge. We're trying to get an even, smooth color and not lumpy, because lumps will ruin the smooth glaze nature. Looks almost like a smoothie. I think this is as broken up as I'm going to be able to get it, and that's fine. Now let's try to swatch this and see what it looks like side by side with our plain one. Ooh, I like that. It is still kind of lumpy. It's difficult to get all the lumps out. But yeah, that's pretty. Okay. There is our first rose-colored glaze. Now I'm going to go wash this out and we're going to try one more technique to make this glaze. It'll require the same supplies, just putting them in the cup in a different order. So one sec. Okay, so for this last attempt at making a rose-colored glaze, we are going to actually put the shavings of oil pastel into the silicone cup first, then add a few drops of water like we do when we make our watercolors out of the pastels or markers. And we're gonna mix that up so that all the little chunky monkeys dissolve, and then, only then, will we add the glaze and mix that all up together. Then we should have a nice smooth finish, kind of like it right out of the jar, without these little bits and pieces, you know? And because I feel so confident in this version of the technique, what we're gonna do is actually do a little drawing right here, just a little tiny one, so that when we put the glaze over it, we can get the effect of the hue that it puts over whatever artwork would be underneath. Because Mod Podge is mainly a varnish, so it's just supposed to protect whatever art you have underneath it. So let's make some art to put underneath it real quick. For the under art, I am going to be using these Arteza colored pencils. They are triangular. And let's pick out some colors that would look good with a pink hue over them. Let's do like this lavender, maybe a pastel type orange, as well as a light blue. So yeah, we'll be doing these colors. I'm not gonna draw anything specific, just kind of like a little pattern, like a little geometrical pattern that I think will look cool. Okay, there we go. We have our little drawing. Now it is time to make our glaze. Okay, like I said, we are going to start with the shavings of our pastel. So let's just get some shavings in there. Got it. And I need to go put a little water in this. Okay, and I will use a paintbrush to sort of break it up. Mixed as that's gonna get, and I got most of the lumps out. There's only a few teeny tiny ones that I am just not going to let my anxiety worry about. Now we'll do that little pour, a little pour of stirred it. Since the water's added to it now, it's a lot thinner, but definitely thick enough to glaze still. I'm just gonna set this aside right here. We're gonna go in and let's try this glaze out. It looks a lot smoother. I don't really see any lumps with adding the Mod Podge. And like I said, it's a little thinner, but enough for a glaze. Definitely enough to still glaze. Definitely less lumpy than attempt number 2. Just trying to get a nice even layer of this so that it dries quicker and we can get like a real look, a true view of how this works. Yeah, that's a nice thin glaze. We're just gonna let this dry for a little bit. Okay, everything has, good enough dry. Yeah, everything is dry. So here are 3 stacked different iterations of Mod Podge. The first one, which is just a swatch of regular Mod Podge that you probably can't really see because it dries clear, but you might be able to see the sheen of it since it's glossy. Here is our first attempt at a rose colored glaze, where we just put some shavings of the oil pastel directly into a little dollop of Mod Podge, and as you can see, that led to some little speckles and chunks of the oil pastel. And then this last iteration that we actually put a drawing underneath, this one was made by dissolving the shavings of oil pastel into a little bit of water first, as well as we could, and then adding a little bit of Mod Podge to it, so it was a little bit thinner, and I can feel the thinness to it, but it's not a bad thin. It still feels very much protective. It still has a little bit of that gloss element, not as like glossy as this one, but I like a good satin finish anyway. But this one is by far my favorite. I would probably add a little bit more of the oil pastel shavings just so it could be a little more rich in pigment. Not quite this level, but somewhere in between these two. But yeah, we made some rose colored glazes, y'all. I wonder what colors y'all use. Let me know in the comments. Till next time, bye.